Can I make it for less? I better. I was recently doing some inspiration sailing at Holiday Warehouse in Plano, Texas, and I came across something that I really responded to. Catherine's collection is this collection of home decor that's really whimsical, quite fantastic, and really colorful, and I really love that kind of stuff. They're also the top of the line, very high-end and very expensive. And this one thing in particular that caught my eye, I thought, well, maybe I could make my own version of that. Let me show you what I was looking at and see what you think. I love the fact that it was monster themed, and it's great for Halloween, but it's also kind of any time of year, particularly if you love monsters and are doing a kid's birthday party. It has big eyes stuck in the middle of what's supposed to be layers of frosting and candy corn teeth. It uses all of my favorite colors in one: hot pink, purple, lime green, orange, with a cupcake on top of this big, ugly face. And at the very top, a platform to put a cake on. I mean, what could be better? At $451, I think I can dupe it for less. So what I've got to start with here is this round Christmas box. So I'm gonna start by just painting the side. I know it's painful because the box is pretty, but I'm gonna paint this all out black so you really won't see any of this design. As a costume designer, I love working with fabrics and trims, and over the years I've collected lots of different trims that someday I was going to use on something, and this seems like the perfect time to use all that stuff on one fantastic creation. The faces that I'm using I got at Dollar Tree, but you can find things just like this on Amazon all year long. You can also use those big googly eyes that they sell at the craft stores, Mr. Potato Head pieces, in case you have some laying around in a box somewhere. But I'm gonna be using a couple of them. I like all of the pieces, and so what I was doing earlier was kind of trying to figure out how I was going to attach them, and they've got these spikes, so I will probably be punching through those on the side, and they're gonna stick up from the edge just a little bit, if you can see that. So they're kind of peeking up over the top edge. So I'll be incorporating that and like the mouth, and then all of the yarn and the ruffles and stuff will go around it and create a face. I will also be covering the top in some stretch pané velvet, so it gives me a nice, smooth, clean surface. And on top of that, following in the tradition of the Catherine's pumpkin, I'm gonna be using one of these big styrofoam cupcakes that I got a couple of years ago because I love all of this candy themed stuff. I love that they're foam, they're so versatile. I'm going to attach this really cool sort of smoky gray cake stand that I got at Walmart. So I'm gonna be placing that on top. So that's the plan. And I have these cake rounds. This will just be a nice, smooth, clean surface. So whatever surface I end up putting on, countertops, tables, whatever, it should be fine. So I'm just gonna run a bead of glue generously around the bottom edge. So that's pretty good. All right, the next thing I'm gonna need to do is go ahead and attach my fabric to the top of this. I'm using Wellwood contact cement again. I like the gel formula because you can control it. Let's get these big puddled areas a little more smoothed out and do this top edge because the fabric will extend down over the top so we get a good tight finish. So now I'm gonna go ahead and use my spray adhesive on the back side of my actual fabric. Here I am in full bloody disaster mode. I sprayed the underside of my fabric and I had it all nicely laid out, and I started walking with it and moved too quickly and ended up getting it all crumpled up. Let's see if I can salvage this at all. I'm gonna try and get these edges pulled over. Now I know how a fly feels in a spider's web. There we go. We have good contact, it's smooth all the way around, and nothing was permanently ruined. I'm going to go ahead and decide where my first set of eyes are going to go. So we have three faces. So if this goes on a table or a buffet table or your kitchen island, which I think this might be for me, you've got pretty much most angles covered, which is really nice. I have quite a few things laid out at this point, playing with how I think I want all of this to actually go on. So I'm going to give you a little bit of insight on that. I really like the idea of, this represents frosting, by the way, on a cake. So I like the idea of having red around the eyes, and I like the way the green looks around the mouth, like it's the lower half of the face. And I'm thinking also that these colors would run along and do the same thing. So each set of eyes would have sort of the red on it, and each mouth would have the green around it. So I was laying that out to take a look at that, and I think I'm going to be happy with the way that's going to look. But what I need to do first is some of the in-between, and the bottom and the top. I know for sure what I've selected is that I want to use this orange ruffle around the bottom edge. So I'm going to go ahead and start gluing that around the bottom. Run my bead of glue. So I'm going to run this so that the little organza, the sheer part of it, sticks out over the edge of the cardboard, but also that the satin part of this trim covers up the cardboard, because otherwise you can see the cardboard underneath. And I'm leaving this little channel in between, and that's all right, because the trim that I'm going to glue on top of it is actually going to go along the edge of the bottom edge of the hat box itself, and not on the edge where the cardboard is. So the next trim I wanted to put on is this purple trim with this cool sequin rickrack in the middle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of bury it in the ditch. So I'm not going to quite plant it flat against the side. I'm actually going to glue it so that part of it folds back under and comes out and makes like a little top ruffle over the orange, if you can see that.
Skittle do, I said skid out and bop. Skittle do, I said bim bop boom. Skittle do, I said bim bop. Skittle do, I said bim. Skittle do, I said skid out and bop. Skittle do, I said bim bop boom.
Said you can really see it sort of starting to come to life and look like something. All this talk about cake is making me hungry. I'm gonna go ahead and work on the basics and how those need to look and how it needs to start with our yarn. So I had said I wanted the yarn this red color, which they're calling magenta, which to me doesn't look magenta at all. But I wanted to start between the eyes here on this guy. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Now remember, the eyes aren't glued in yet, so I can still pop them out. And I think I will once I've got the whole pattern done. Even though I want them recessed into what is this look of frosting, I also don't want them covered. and I can set them back in, pull them out, set them back in afterwards to glue them in, and they will actually sit a little bit on top so that they don't get lost in all the decoration. All right, so now I'm going to start with the next part that I was sure I wanted to do a particular way, which is the green around the mouths of these guys. But look how fun that is. It really accentuates big green lips and or part of the chin. And see, these mostly sit on top, and I think that'll be fine. And I'm going to follow this line, but I'm not going to go right up against it. The freeform swirls are so much fun. Lots of hot glue sticking to my fingers. It might not be a bad idea to work with a low temp glue gun on this stuff, because it seems to be worse than most of the projects that I work on that I'm getting glue on my hands. I think this one stripe will be diminished a lot depending on what I glue in there. This one, I'm gonna have to fill in the whole space so that it provides a background for this sort of zipper mouth. This green color seems to be thinner than the magenta color that they call it, because it gives us depth. So there's a difference between this raised up area here of a thicker yarn and the indentation there of the more narrow yarn. So now we have a really good, solid background for the mouth. I just have to find where that other hole is. Hello? I don't think it's up there. Oh, there it is. All right. So now we have our lime green and magenta color glued down all the way around. Great. Time to take a little break.
Break's over.
I have started gluing this really great hot pink ruffle trim down now. I'm doing it in a way that it almost ends up being little rosettes bunched up together. And that's to cover up underneath. It adds a little bit of interest. So see, I'm sort of backtracking here and going up and down almost like a zigzag to get this to fill in this entire space. I want to add this green in between my magenta reddish color and my lime color. It just looks like layers of frosting. Isn't that fun? It's interesting because certain colors don't really complement each other. See, that's too close because it's very red with the saturated orange, and I love it with the green. I tell you, it doesn't really work with the hot pink or the magenta either. It doesn't pop. So just to show you how that looks. So I'm gonna keep going in these next places with the green. I decided in my trim that the best way to lay it out and to keep those colors popping was to add another line of my chartreuse yarn next to the red and keep this green working in there. There you go. So I've got all that glued in. This green pops really well against the chartreuse, which looks really good with the red. And then the hot pink and the purple and the orange go really well together down there. And here are all my faces. I haven't permanently secured those yet, but just to give you an idea, that looks so interesting all the way around. And you see sort of the shape of each head with these different colors on it, these blob type characters. So that's pretty fun. And what I like about it too, when you look at it this way, is it looks kind of like those layered cakes that aren't frosted on the side, but you see the filling in between the layers oozing out. And that's really what it looks like to me. So I think it's great that I've repeated this in between these colors and these textures in between, with a heavier texture on the bottom with the hot pink. So it looks pretty much like a cake to me. Stay tuned. An epic fail is about to happen. I decided what face I wanted on the cupcake. So I have these pumpkin eyes and this big old pumpkin mouth. I've decided to go ahead and add some trim in the folds of the cupcake here. What would be what do you call it? A cupcake wrapper? I'm not sure. So I went all the way around and just put that black trim in between. So that part is done. And I'm going to take my face out. I can place that randomly once I'm done. So I've got my yarn ready to go. Now, I really love this stuff, but it's also kind of a pain to work with. Ultimately, I don't like that white at all. So even though it's a huge waste of materials, I'm going to go ahead and pull this off and start again with a different color. I've got my process started here. This is going pretty easy, pretty fast, because you can just turn it as you go. I'm already much happier with the color combination. Ow! I think I should do a compilation of every time I say ow when I burn my fingers. And it's funny because when I first started videoing myself doing all this stuff, I was like, oh, I don't want to say ow. I don't want to let on that I keep burning myself repeatedly over and over again on a daily basis so that people will think I'm an idiot. But then it's like, well, guess what? I am an idiot. Now we have something that I'm much happier with the cohesiveness of the color, and it really pops. I want to decide now where to put his face. Oh, that looks so good. You're gonna love it when you get to see it. Isn't that fun? And I want to highlight those a little bit, particularly because the eyes are green on green. So I want to use a little bit of my red. Why not gild the lily, right? After struggling quite a bit with what I was going to do on the top here and how the decoration was going to fall, I decided to go with my hot pink ruffle trim, which is on this part, the bottom part of the cake. This is good because it brings that color up to the top and ties it all in. And what I did was I cut the trim in half again into two separate pieces, and then I glued them into little rings like this. And what I was able to do is lay it down across the cake, across the top, and look at it and move these around until I was really happy with the placement. I've also decided in the process that this little pumpkin kit came with these great bat ears on one of them. I'm not even sure which one, but I've decided to go ahead and use them on my face on my cupcake. So the next step is I'm going to add these little skulls. They came in a package of 12 from Dollar Tree, and they're sparkly, glittery, which I like. And to me, it sort of represents dollops of frosting all the way around. So they're going to be little sugar skulls, as it were, that go all the way around the top edge. I even thought of maybe putting them on their heads like this so that it would look more like a dollop, but then that just looks weird. Okay, so these guys are secure, and it's pretty cute all the way around, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Perfect. I was hoping it would work out that there were 13 skulls. I think that's fantastic that there are. I am about ready to commit now to finally gluing these puppies down. And you might find that they're already stuck in a few places, which is fine. Make sure that you shift it exactly how you want it because you glued this around it. This one's glued on just a little bit at that bottom edge. So I want to get really where that little spike is. And then, like I said, make sure you've got it in a position that you're happy with. I wanted these mouths a little askew. These eyes are a little more close set this way, but it's kind of funny. Push that in, press that down. Moving on to my third face. I love his mouth, and this one, the way it sort of ends up facing, I think is pretty fantastic. So let me just make sure that I've got these ears where I want them. I don't particularly want them too symmetrical, but I don't want them touching the top of our pedestal either. Oh, pretty cute, don't you think? Look at that face. It almost looks like something out of Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas. So here you go. I just need to clean it up. Take my hair dryer to it to get rid of these glue strings. My bottom is still reasonably clean and white. So I now have my cake stand, or my creepy cake pedestal, as it were. Ta-da! Okay guys, we're calling this one a wrap. As Marie Antoinette supposedly said, let them eat cake. Only she probably said it in French. I'm just guessing. When giving out candies on All Hallows Eve, some people like to throw them. But for those with more refined address, here's my trick-or-treaters totem. If you like this video, be sure and subscribe and watch our next video too. Ay, cake by the ocean. Talk to me, baby. I keep on hoping. Cake by the ocean. Stormy, come here.